Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So I'll just be speaking on one verse from the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So verse is number 7. So chapter 16. Verse 7. So I'll read the Sanskrit. Okay. And you can repeat after me if you like. Paritram cha nivritram cha Janana Vidur Asura Na Shocham Napi Jajaro Na Satyam Te Shividyate Pravritim Janivritim Cha Janana Vidur Asura Na shocham napi chacharo Na satyam te shividyate Pravitrim cha nivrittim cha Janana vidur asraha Na shocham napi chacharo Na satyam te shividyate. Okay, translation by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Those who are demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them. Purport. In every civilized human society, there is some set of scriptural rules and regulations which is followed from the beginning. Especially among the Aryans, those who adopt the Vedic civilization and who are known as the most advanced civilized peoples, those who do not follow the scriptural injunctions are supposed to be demons. Therefore, it is stated here that the demons do not know the scriptural rules, nor do they have any inclination to follow them. Most of them do not know them, and even if some of them know, they have not the tendency to follow them. They have no faith, nor are they willing to act in terms of the Vedic injunctions. The demons are not clean, either externally or internally. One should always be careful to keep his body clean by bathing, brushing teeth, shaving, changing clothes, etc. As far as internal cleanliness is concerned, one should always remember the holy names of God and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The demons neither like nor follow all these rules for external and internal cleanliness. As for behavior, there are many rules and regulations guiding human behavior, such as the Manu Samhita, which is the law of the human race. Even up to today, those who are Hindu follow the Manu Samhita. Laws of inheritance and other legalities are derived from this book. Now, in the Manu Samhita, it is clearly stated that a woman should not be given freedom. That does not mean that women are to be kept as slaves, but they are like children. Children are not given freedom, but that does not mean that they are kept as slaves. The demons have now neglected such injunctions, and they think that women should be given as much freedom as men. However, this has not improved the social condition of the world. Actually, a woman should be given protection at every stage of life. She should be given protection by the father in her younger days, by the husband in her youth, and by the grown-up sons in her old age. This is proper social behavior according to the Manu Samhita. But modern education has artificially devised a puffed-up concept of womanly life, and therefore marriage is practically now an imagination in human society. The social condition of women is thus not very good now, although those who are married are in a better condition than those who are proclaiming their so-called freedom. The demons, therefore, do not accept any instruction which is good for society, and because they do not follow the experience of great sages and the rules and regulations laid down by the sages, the social condition of the demoniac people is very miserable. Oma Gyana Timarandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bishtam Stabitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gita Mayam Dadati Sva Padantikam. Namo Om Vishnupada Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastati Deshtarani. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Bhakta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'll just read the translation one more time. Those who are demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them. So I guess let's share some thoughts that I had, reflections that I had on this particular verse. The first being about this point that Krishna is making speaking to Arjuna, that demons do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done, because they don't accept scripture, they don't follow scriptural rules. I guess one reflection I was thinking of was really just like, I guess the perspective or the thought of how fortunate one is if you do accept Scripture, and that if you do have a tendency to want to follow Scripture rules, or if you have some appreciation just by nature towards Bhagavad Gita or towards these scriptures, and that really if you do, I mean, obviously there's a process, but if you do happen to accept Bhagavad Gita, then you're set in a lot of ways. Not completely, but in a lot of ways, because one can use Bhagavad Gita as a guide to see, am I progressing in spiritual life? Am I progressing in spiritual life? And even if you're failing in certain ways, or if you're falling short in different ways in Krishna consciousness or in your spiritual life, still you can inquire, am I making progress? And use Bhagavad Gita as a reference point, or like as a guide to see, am I maybe I'm not like at the following the perfect standard, but like am I making progress on the way to that standard? So one thing, obviously this verse is talking about or mentions cleanliness, proper behavior, truthfulness, and so I was thinking we can one thing we can do is kind of ask, am I improving in these areas? And I guess like with cleanliness, I was thinking that personally, with like drinking water, one difficult thing I always had was I still have, is drinking water without having it touch my lips is really, I don't know, somehow or other doesn't come naturally. It's kind of, and so but one thing I've thought is, I guess am I improving towards, I guess, the highest standard, even if I can't, I don't know, if it's not like comfortable for me to drink water in that way now, like 50% of the time now I do, or something like that. So that's one, with cleanliness, I was thinking of that, improving towards the standard. But I guess I was thinking even with cleanliness, there's, or these different things, we can maybe accept the principle of cleanliness, but then you still, anybody can accept, okay, I read in Bhagavad Gita, it says cleanliness is kind of, you can take it as cleanliness is like a principle of devotees, or is certainly required in spiritual life. But still you have to then do the further research of what does that mean? What is cleanliness according to Vedic knowledge? And so then you'll find, okay, not eating meat is like a very basic one. And then you have bathing, brushing teeth. As Prabhupada mentions, bathing, brushing teeth, changing clothes. And then other ones like washing hands after you're touching feet, and things. And then also things like, not wearing shoes inside the home, which is something, I guess, which is traditionally done here in the U.S. So I was thinking of those things that first you might even accept the principle, but then you have to do the further research to understand what is the application. And then at the same time, even kind of in the self-examination, or kind of like looking at your own life and kind of seeing, okay, am I doing this? Like like also in Bhagavad Gita, when there's like a list, Krishna gives like a list of so many qualities of, I believe, of knowledge. And so like humility, pridelessness, selflessness, or anyway, at least the first two. And so you might like read this list of like all these qualities and think, okay, am I like meeting that one? Like check that one off, or okay, I'm not doing well on that one. But I was thinking that even when we do that, or at least when I do that, still there's some kind of faultiness there, or there's some kind of pitfall, because we might think, okay, yes, I follow cleanliness because I don't have a dog in the home. Like, I'm very careful about that, and so therefore we kind of I guess prematurely kind of check off these things. So we can kind of fool ourselves into thinking that we're that we're good in these respects. So I was thinking the same thing with spiritual master. We can say, yes, I have a spiritual master, this person I follow, and then I follow this kind of cleanliness standards that make sense to me. Maybe I don't even know Bhagavad Gita at all, but I feel like I've met a lot of people who say that I'm very clean, and I'm sure they are, certainly, by, well, I don't know how to best say that, but they follow nice standards, but not necessarily like Vedic standards, but still nice standards. So I guess that's one point as well. If you're reading Bhagavad Gita for the first time, you might think, okay, I've got that covered. Certainly I felt like that when it's not necessarily true. But similarly, you can read through the second chapter of Gita and think, okay, yes, I realize I'm a spirit soul, and that I need to give up material sense gratification entirely in order to make real, in order to achieve perfection or something. But still, you can be completely demoniac, or completely, have all of the wrong ideas, basically. So this is one. I guess I was thinking this kind of point. Maybe just to flesh that out, because I was thinking, who is that spiritual master? It could be, there's so many different gurus that you could be following. It doesn't necessarily mean that they know Shastra, or that they know what the purport is, or what's the purpose of Bhagavad Gita, what's the purpose of the Vedas, what's the ultimate teaching, So, and then even if we're regularly reading spiritual literature like Bhagavad Gita, what are we taking away from it? Because we might, and then if we're convinced we're a spirit soul, what is our conclusion from that? I guess, maybe one point being that, maybe this is kind of a common idea, but that you might read, Krishna's statements that are so clear in Bhagavad Gita, really unequivocal, just again and again, you can't really twist much meaning out of them, but still you'll think, yes, he says, surrender unto me, serve me, and ultimately you reach my abode. And really, what he's meaning is, I'm surrendering to, you can have some idea that, yes, I'm surrendering to that absolute truth, and that is me, and within me, that unmanifested thing in me and in everyone, and therefore I'm following therefore I know Scripture and I'm following Scripture, and be really convinced in that, and be kind of deluded in that way. And I guess also I had one, story, not really story, but I was talking to one person about, I guess this point that if we're convinced we're a spirit soul, what is our conclusion from that? I guess I was thinking that when I was talking to someone about this idea that we're not the body, and they were on board. She was on board that that's true. I'm actually spirit soul, and I think she appreciated it from the perspective of body image and of self-consciousness, and she was that makes sense. I'm not this body, but concern there, at least for me, is that there isn't really the next part of that statement, which is, what I would say is that, yes, I'm not this body, and then attached to that statement is, I am a spirit soul that's part and parcel of Krishna, and I'm meant to serve Krishna. So I'm not this body. I'm part and parcel of God, and I'm meant to serve God. But if you just take the first part and say, yeah, that's true, I'm not this body, you can go anywhere with that statement. So I was thinking about that and how it can be useless, really. But spend my life serving God. But okay, and then that was one point. On the topic of scripture teaching, what is to be done and what is not to be done, I was thinking of this phrase that maybe is said a lot, but that Krishna consciousness is a science. I think Prabhupada says this, like this point, presents this argument that actually Krishna consciousness is science. And I remember just when I first heard that, I didn't really, really like that phrase, or didn't really like, it rubbed me the wrong way in the sense that I kind of thought it sounded a bit imprecise, or kind of, in some ways also kind of like duplicitous, in that I kind of felt like, well, it's kind of like pledging not allegiance, but kind of partnering with science, or with modern scientists or something like that. When like kind of like a bait and switch, where you say yes, I'm on the side of science, but then like ultimately we would disagree with a lot of things that modern scientists believe. But I was thinking about this point, this statement, Krishna consciousness is a science, and at least, especially in this kind of this topic, like I can see the value and the truth in that. In that Krishna says like so many things in Bhagavad Gita that are clear statements and clear instructions, and are very like do this and do not do this. Well, actually, maybe I should clear. Maybe that isn't completely, not like do this, because a lot of the time Krishna does say this, and then do what you will, or like do what you. So I guess not necessarily, but at least says this will kind of be the result of this, if that makes sense. But and these are things that could be examined, tested, and checked for authenticity, is what I was thinking. For example, one main statement being that if you practice spiritual life, you'll become detached from desires for material sense gratification. That you chant Hare Krishna mantra, at least somewhat regularly, then you'll lose taste for the material world. And so I guess I was thinking that's very like testable, and like it's either true or it isn't in a lot of ways. So easily testable principles or instructions. And then also on the positive side, that you'll also become attracted or attached to Krishna as well. So we can see, okay, Scripture says this, and then is that what I experience? And I guess related to that, I was thinking of this verse from 2nd chapter, verse 54. Arjuna asks, what are he's asking about the symptoms of the realized soul. So he says, "O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak, and what is his language? How does he sit, and how does he walk?" So I was thinking about, how this is the process for really any intelligent person who wants to, hears something and then wants to investigate or wants to see what does that look like? So, and that Arjuna doesn't just kind of hear Krishna say something and then follow blindly, but that he investigates. Okay, what is that? What does that actually look like? And I was thinking similar to in school or college, if you want to become expert in something, all the most intelligent people in the class are the ones that follow up with so many questions to get a really clear idea. And then also kind of put those to the test as well. So Arjuna also is kind of I guess investigating in that way. And one verse that's very clearly related to this verse is also from the 16th chapter, verse 24. And so it states, "One should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated." So I really love this verse. Really, really amazing verse. But but specifically that we should read, obviously read scripture. Sorry, maybe it's not so clear if I just read it once, but that should understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. So I guess just like Prabhupada says in this purport, the verse says what is to be done, what is not to be done, and then Prabhupada says, and how do you do that? By scripture, and then gives a specific point about later on about Manasimita and about women as well. So so I like that point that we should read scriptures regularly so that we can know what is to be done, what is not to be done, and that generally we shouldn't accept any idea if somebody can't provide references to scripture, and that that's coming directly from Krishna is kind of, I was thinking, is kind of amazing. It's not like a statement from Prabhupada saying, So, and then just maybe one kind of last point was on this idea of knowing what is to be done and what is not to be done. There are two other Bhagavad Gita verses I thought of. One being chapter 4, verse 19. One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. So, so if you're in full knowledge, then your every endeavor will be free from any desire for sense gratification. So, in terms of, I guess the flip side of the demons not knowing, or the demoniac not knowing what is to be done and what is not to be done, the flip side being that, when you do know, then you're free from desire from sense gratification. And then in chapter 10, verse 8, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, "I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts." So yeah, so I like that verse as well. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So yeah, so I mean that's really everything I want to cover. Just that, yeah. So by reading Bhagavad Gita, including reading, especially like this chapter where Krishna is very clearly talking about this is divine nature, this is demoniac nature. There are two kinds of people in this world, and then understanding the regulations of scriptures like Manusamhita, then we can know what spiritual progress will look like, and know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Okay, yeah. So that's all. Any questions or comments?
There are two kinds of people, you said, right? The demoniacs and the non. But is it two kinds of people, or are those two kinds within us? I'm having that question as you were speaking, right? Because we have the good side of us is saying, okay, go seek knowledge, understand, learn, and then there is intent to follow those scriptures and reference it. So you have that. And personally for me, those two I feel is easier to seek knowledge and have the intent. And then there's that demoniac side of which I relate my ego, right? Because you go from here, you're all positive, and then there's something that tickles your ego, and then your other side shows up. So those two natures, while we have the intent to track those and have that reference, that step of overcoming your ego, and whether with your family members or others, is such a hard step. So how do we hone on that? Because that's, I think, so the first part is we have those two natures within us, and the first nature of having that intent is relatively easy. And the second step of that demoniac behavior within us, which is our ego potentially, where does that reside? We are part and parcel of Krishna, and somewhere along with that soul is residing this demoniac behavior. So how do we separate those?
Yeah, I kind of wish I didn't say it like that, because, I mean, certainly, I guess my initial thought, which, I could be wrong, certainly, but is that, yes, we definitely everybody has demoniac tendencies. It's not like, some people are just divine, some people are demoniac, and that's kind of it, If you don't believe in Krishna, you're a demon or something like that. That, of course, like, all of us have demoniac tendencies, like you were saying, and that's a matter of kind of steadily kind of not kind of like what's the word? Not like feeding the demoniac tendencies. So that would be like my initial thought, and then I guess to be honest, like I kind of also have a similar question that I kind of was wanting to ask Mukunda and others, because in the previous verse 6, I guess it's stated like very kind of emphatically or kind of like clear cut or clean cut. Like Krishna says, there are two kinds of created beings. One is called divine, the other demoniac. So that's why I said it like that. But I guess to me it doesn't. I'm not sure if it's maybe just one of those things where it's said very simply, but then of course, it's not quite so simple. But I don't know, Mukunda, would you have more thoughts on that?
Yeah, same. I still find it perplexing. You'd think I'd have a grasp on it, exactly how to where the categories are, or where the lines are, but I still don't. And at least you see, As far as I can see, it seems like we use the terms or we draw the lines differently depending on the context in which we're discussing them. And when you see Srila Prabhupada use the term devotees, he does use it differently in different cases. Sometimes he's using it and it's clearly referring to exclusively Vaishnavas. And at other times he will make clear, he'll use the word devotees and he'll make clear, I'm including Christians and Muslims and so on. And so, which is interesting because including Muslims wouldn't make sense in certain places where we're using the devotees. Here they said that they're following scriptural rules and regulations about cleanliness and what to do and what not to do, and we don't accept that Muslims and media and certain sacrifices that actually should be done. But from another perspective, another valid perspective, we include them in the category of devotees. They're devotees of God. So, but in other categories we wouldn't. And I remember I did this as like a exercise in a class one time, and people really didn't like it. Actually, people called me and they really disapproved of it, and I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do about it. But I asked, okay, let's just do a little exercise. I'm going to give you some basics of a particular character I'm going to make up. You tell me if they're in the divine or in the demon or devotee category. If we're going to say there's two categories, and we should at least have a grasp on what we're talking about and what categories people fall into. And you give a few, and some you can kind of, but some of them it's a bit difficult, and a lot of them, I'd say so many of them. I mean, in certain places when you look at the way we use devotee and the way we use demon. Is it that they're approaching God, or that versus the approaching God versus moving away from God? Is that what it is? Is it that they accept God, or is it that they accept Krishna? I mean, and I guess some of these are kind of what was already mentioned before. But I just don't have a clear way of making sense of every case where the demon and devotee categories are given. I still don't actually. Not to say that I've put sufficient time into it, and so I'm not saying that you can't come to a good, but I'm surprised by how when it's come up in classes and I haven't really come to a good conclusion, and maybe after that I've just been asking the wrong people. I haven't been putting the time in myself, but I would have expected that for it being such a key thing of the 14th chapter, I'd have a grip on it, a grasp on it, and I actually don't. All I can say is. Maybe the best thing I can say is something like what I started with, is that when Srila Prabhupada, even when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu uses the term Vaishnava, and he's asked, what is a Vaishnava? And in different cases he gives different definitions. And so, and sometimes he gives strict definitions. If you're not doing this, you aren't really considered a Vaishnava. If you're not following the practice of Vaishnava, you aren't really a Vaishnava. Other place he'll give a very liberal one. Anyone who chants I don't know if he says the holy name even once is a Vaishnava or something like that. He gives a very liberal So there are different. And in certain contexts, this is what would be the relevant definition for a Vaishnava. In other cases, that wouldn't be the relevant definition of what we're using when we're making a distinction between Vaishnava and Avaishnava. So that's as far as I can see. But it deserves more than that, and that's all I can say immediately. Does anyone have anything else to offer?
I think
because there are only people in between devotees and demons.
One thing then, Deepti, there was a place, because I was kind of wrestling with this at one point. I was looking up different instances where Srila Prabhupada's, using these terms, and there's one place where Srila Prabhupada says something like, well, first of all, the thing that Namrita mentions, there's a common thing which devotees say, at least I've heard it a number of times for years now, which is that in, how does it go? In Satya Yuga, the demons were on different planets. And, in Treta Yuga, demons were in different families. And then Dvarpara, same family. And then Kali Yuga, the demons and demonic are in the same person. Now, I don't want to crush that because it's cute and I like it, but I don't think it actually holds up, because there were mixed people way back. So you can't exactly break it up like that. But it's not coming from Prabhupada or Shastra or anything like that. But it's kind of you can say that really you'd find, even then you'd find the divine and the demonic in one person, even Satya Yuga. So, but there's a place where this is coming up with Srila Prabhupada, and one of the cases I came across, Srila Prabhupada says something about the devotees and the demons, And one of his disciples kind of challenges it, or I don't remember if there's other people, new people around. He's like, well, like, you know, we all have our bad. And Prabhupada's like doubles down, no, there are like the devotees and the demons. And there's some kind of back and forth, and Prabhupada's being more absolute, and the other person's like trying to qualify it. And then, but what's interesting is at one point, Srila Prabhupada said, yes, we can say that we're all demons from one perspective, but then we can also have to make distinctions, you know, that there are devotees and demons. So, which I thought was a significant admission that, yes, he said, yes, from one perspective, and I need to get the words right, I don't want to misquote Prabhupada, but something like going along in the kind of back and forth, when we said, yeah, from one perspective, we could say that we're all demons, but we're making distinctions, and therefore we can say, you know, from another, we could go another route and say, from another perspective, we're all devotees. Every living being is a devotee, and yet we make distinctions. And you can make an error to overly emphasize that we're all devotees, or overly emphasize that we're all demons. So, as far as I can see, it really is kind of context specific, like what's the appropriate way of using the terms. And still doesn't cover everything, but that's as far as I can see. Deep, you had something to say. Yeah.
Hi, Krishna. Just to comment on the question that she had, I would like to quote what His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj often quotes in his lectures. He says that he uses the parable that there's a good dog and a bad dog in us, and the choices we make each day will feed either one of them. So we must make choices to feed the good dog and starve the bad dog. Now that we know what the nature of a demoniac person and a person in Krishna consciousness should be, so our choices should be such that we starve the bad dog. So I just thought it was appropriate to add to that.
Yeah, that's it.
Just not that we're going to go further, but just like one more thing, if you want to talk about kind of it being not so clear to me, is that part of the exercise that I was trying to do in that one class. Were you there for that class?
Yeah. I listened online.
Oh, okay, yeah. For that, is that one of the things too is Srila Prabhupada saying that those who are divine or they're godly or they're devotees, then they follow scriptural injunctions. And I thought even in this one, he's saying that, yeah, he's saying in every civilized human society there are some scriptural rules and injunctions. So those who follow are devotees and who don't. So that seems to kind of fit the idea that Muslims are also devotees, Christians are also devotees. And so that was part of the exercise, is that by that standard, then I presented, okay, you have, you know, Karen Darcy, and she lives in Oklahoma, and she's been a Christian for her whole life, and she eats meat, and when she sees the Hare Krishnas on the street, she says, you know, you guys are going to hell. Like, is she a demon or is she a devotee? And like a lot of people, as far as I remember, people in the room say she's a demon. I think not by this. I don't see it, not by that standard. It doesn't seem she is. So I'm not sure how to. Yeah, we could go on and on with different things, but I'll try to. Maybe we can make it a homework assignment. I mean, I'd like to not just keep putting off never having a good, you know, answer to that question.
I think it's more appropriate to say that she chose her demoniac tendencies. She chose to act on her demoniac tendencies.
I see. Yeah, well, I was thinking that, like, if it's a scriptural thing to like deny false gods and stuff like that, or idol worship, and she sees that she's like simply just following her scripture, then it's like, well, she's just following her scripture. But yeah, but there's anyway. Yeah.
I would agree that she's not being a demon, right? I think she's completely following her scriptures and her knowledge of what devotion to God is. And obviously, I'm not the right person to speak on this, but I'm very much a believer of like labeling a person as a demon or a devotee. It's not a black and white thing, right? It's the behavior, it's consistent. You can label the behavior. You can say that was a devotional behavior, that was a demonic behavior. And like what Prabhu said and what Mataji was also saying about feeding, which behavior do you feed consistently might have a net effect on which side you're leaning towards. And those notions or those labels of what demonic behaviors are or what devotional behaviors are can be completely different based on the upbringing of that person in their community. And I think there's no universal truth, to be honest. That's what I really think. And so yes, Karen is also being a devotee, and probably we are also being a devotee in our own sense, right? And if if there could really be a true religion that can bring all religions together, that would be ideal, but I don't think we're there.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot to say on that, but I could take for too long. So, but yeah. Thank you, Kunal. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Rupa Manohar Prabhu, any last announcements?
Okay, Prabhu, when are you going to
We'll serve prasadam now outside. Thank you very much. And last session at 8:50.